winning.
Well, you got a haircut. Our guests can't see that, but what else do you have going on for Money Chat?
Well, I feel like I kind of nerded out the other week on numbers, and numbers are cool, and we do a lot of numbers here, but I had as my phone I did that.
Your phone just rang, didn't it?
The co-host did that.
Wow.
Wah, wah, wah. I was going to talk, I have had some cool dad moments that I need to talk about.
Our listeners love to hear about you in London.
Yeah, so as I'm sure our listeners know, I grew up playing soccer, and credit to my dad, he took me to practice I had practiced as premier since I was a little kid. So such a commitment. So all those parents out there, shout out to you. And the commitment you make to your kids in sports is nuts. And I'm starting finally to witness this myself. So London, we signed her up from gymnastics on Tuesdays and then swim practice on Thursdays. Wow. So I have yet as a father to experience, there's a glass, and then all the parents sit in these chairs and you watch them go. And I'm super competitive. And not only was I proud, but I'm super embarrassed because she gets in there. She won't listen to me.
The question is she embarrassed by you? That's the question.
Well, that's obvious. But she gets in there and I'm thinking light and fluffy little kid. She is dead serious about this.
Yeah.
She is so competitive. So they have to run around in circles.
Knowing London, no doubt.
It's crazy. And she's pushing kids out of the way, running full sprint. It's not even a race. And she's in front no matter what, cutting. And then there's a game where you dump balls out of a big garbage bin. And then you got to pick them up and throw them back in. And she's literally tossing toddlers across the room and getting as many balls as she can. And I'm just oh, hey, go. But I mean, I'm as proud, but to sit there as a dad and just watch your kids do their thing on their own, she listens to the teacher amazingly. She doesn't listen to me at all. I don't know what their playlist is in there, but I need it because anything she says, she's like teacher's pet. Anything she says, but she does listen to me, but not to that level.
Yeah.
But it's such a heartwarming, amazing thing to watch your kiddo
thanks for sharing.
do their own kind of independent thing. So just a little shout out to our parents out there and the commitments they make to their kids. And, it's what an amazing, awesome thing it is.
Yeah, I really love that, Keelan. I was definitely not in sports, but my mom took me everywhere for violin, and my dad, he's no longer with us, but Mom, thanks for all that you did with that. So, you brought a little personal thing in today. I think I'll talk a little bit about mortgage. Yeah. I'll bring something professional in. So I want to talk about the pre-approval process because there's a statistic that I read quite a few years ago. I don't know if it's still an accurate statistic now, and I can't remember the article that it came from, but it talked about 30% of mortgages fall through because of financing. And the reason they fall through is not because of an issue going on with the home or the inspection, because something comes up, an issue that happens with the buyer's financing. This can be a complete nightmare. Now, there's two reasons. Number one, you get pre-qualified instead of pre-approved. That's your first mistake. You want to make sure that you're getting pre-approved. It's a solid, formal loan commitment. Make sure it's gone through underwriting and all of that stuff. But what's important to understand is the pre-approval is based on the information that you provide at loan application. So if you get pre-approved today and you buy a home a month from now, 2 months, 3 months, 12 months, at the time that your offer is accepted, everything is getting re-verified. So if you got approved today and you quit your job tomorrow, guess what? You're not going to get a loan. You don't have an employment. There's no income. So the really nice pre-approval letter looks good, but it's only as good as the information that's provided. Now, also, it's only as good as the information that your mortgage consultant is putting together from the documents that you send in. And this is why it's so important to go through full underwrite, because even, Keelan and I think I'm an awesome mortgage consultant. I feel I'm one of the best out there. I'm really smart, and I've been doing this for a quarter of a century. Keelan's a second to me because he's only been doing it for 5 years, but just kidding. Anyways, I really know my stuff, but I'm not an underwriter. I'm not perfect. Mistakes happen. And so, making sure that you've got everything bulletproof is critically important. So here's what happens. A lot of companies don't pre-underwrite, or mortgage consultants don't want to go through the process, whatever whatever the case may be. And so they're determining things on their own, and some pretty big mistakes are getting made. And there's always a disclosure in your pre-approval that until everything gets re-verified, the financing is really not guaranteed. So I want to give a shout out there if you're thinking of purchasing. Now, a little plug for guarantees on closing. I do want to let you know that I have a $5,000 financing guarantee for the seller. So if for some reason there was a mistake that was made, or even if you lose your job in the middle of the closing process, again, you're not going to get a loan, but I'm going to pay the seller $5,000. So it really is helping my buyers get better terms, get shorter, get their offer accepted over someone else's offer. So it's a great guarantee. To wrap up Money Chat, I just want to talk about a couple of things regarding the pre-approval process or qualifying that you may not know about. Income's a big one. So any income that you haven't received for 2 years that's not guaranteed can be a challenge. Self-employed, sometimes you can get an exception with 1 year as long as you've had your business open for 5 years, and it depends on how the findings come through that pre-approval process. Bonus income, if you're receiving bonus income, you can't use it unless you've had at least 2 years receiving it. Signing bonuses can't be used at all. Overtime income, part-time income, or other incomes that are not guaranteed. Second job. So these things you have to have a history of receiving for 2 years to use that income. In employment, you can change employers during the pre-approval process as long as you check with your mortgage consultant first, because if you go from a full-time employee to a contractor, if you don't have 2 years working contract work, you're not going to be able to use that income. So that's why it's important that you check with your mortgage consultant. Or if you're taking a new position within your company and you're going from a salary to a lower salary but awesome potential with commissions, well, if you don't have a history of receiving commissions, that income now can't be used. So it's going to go off of the lower salary. You can't go get a second job to pre-approve for more. Again, it doesn't have a history. Next is on credit. You want to be really careful that you're not doing anything with your credit before your offer gets accepted. Credit score, your credit is only good for so long. It's going to get repulled. Also, there's a soft pull that happens right before funding. So if any new debt comes up, that's going to throw off your debt to income ratio and can jeopardize your financing. And it may not make sense, but don't close out cards. I know it doesn't make sense, but the reality is if you close out revolving credit cards, it can be devastating for your credit score because you've lost history in your overall credit. So if you've done that after getting pre-approved, now your credit score could be different. Don't open any new cards, obviously. That's going to affect credit. And this is going to be another one. I'll have to bring it into more detail in a future show, but don't pay off collections. It can drop your score because of that history. So collections always want to be paid off at closing. So most important, I've just given you a couple things to look out for, but there's much more. Work with your expert. Keelan and I are here to support you and represent you for financing. If you need that assistance, you can call on the show at 1-855-400-1150. And that's your Money Chat for today. Coming up next in the Money Hour, we're talking about real estate goals for the year starting right now. Carrie Haas with Windermere Real Estate right here on 1150 AM KKNW after the short break.